everyone. Today we're talking about something I see way too often in the Airbnb space, and that is hosts trying to do absolutely everything themselves. If you're feeling overwhelmed managing your short-term rental, this video is specifically for you. I'm going to show you why property management might be the game-changing solution you need. Let's be real for a moment. Are you constantly answering guest messages at odd hours, coordinating cleaners between back-to-back bookings, dealing with maintenance issues during your family dinner, spending weekends doing deep cleans and inventory checks, constantly updating your listing and adjusting pricing? I've been there, and let me tell you, this isn't sustainable if you want to grow your business. When I first started in Airbnb arbitrage, I was very big on doing everything myself because I told myself if I wasn't willing to do every little thing, if I wasn't willing to learn every little thing, how am I going to understand the business? How am I going to be successful? So that's exactly what I did. When I first started in Airbnb arbitrage, I started with the guest bedroom of my 2-bedroom apartment in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I did that for a few months just to kind of get a feel for it. So I put it up on Airbnb. I handled all the check-ins and checkouts. I had a smart lock. I cleaned every single time. I really tried to understand everything about the business, but I only did it for a couple of months just to be like, do I even enjoy this? Do I want to do this constantly? Do I understand it? Does it make sense? So then from there, I went and I got an apartment. And then at the apartment, that's when I decided, okay, let me see if I can delegate some of these tasks. So I was still doing all the messaging. I was still doing all the check-ins and checkouts, but I didn't do all the cleanings. I actually hated doing the cleanings. Even if I was good at cleaning and I was super detail oriented, I don't want to do it. There's people that can do it better than me that do this as a profession. So I went and I had a cleaner do it. Same thing with any type of handiwork. It was in an apartment building, so all of the maintenance was basically covered, but anything that wasn't, I would have a maintenance person come and do it. I'm not gonna do it. Same thing when I furnished the property. I didn't go and do all the furnishing and assembly. I could maybe learn, but I don't want to do that. I'm just a girl, you know what I mean? So that's why I delegated and I hired other people to do certain tasks. And that was just with my first full Airbnb arbitrage opportunity. Imagine how much more I delegated as I continued to grow. I think that that's probably one thing that helped me when I first got started because I knew I don't want to do everything. I want to delegate. I first just wanted to do everything to understand it. And I don't recommend that for every business, obviously. Not every single business you need to learn everything up front. But for something like that, I was young. I think I was like 22 at the time. So I was like, I'm going to just learn it myself. I have no problem with that. But I feel like when you have a full-time career and you have other things that you're doing, it's important for you to delegate, especially if you have the ability to do so and maybe you have some additional income. For someone like myself, I was kind of bootstrapping it, right? And I was using whatever additional income I made from my job that I could. But here's another reason why I'm very similar to how you probably are if you're not using a property management solution. I also told myself that this business comes first. So meaning whenever I was at work and I would get messages from guests, I was on it. I chose them over my own job basically because I told myself I want to be able to quit my job and go full-time in this. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that to everyone. My job was pretty flexible. I was able to kind of come and go as I pleased. So I wouldn't necessarily say that that's the best thing, especially if you have a very high pressure job or something that involves you to be fully focused in there. But that is the type of sacrifice that I was willing to make. And not saying that it didn't serve me. It probably did because I knew what I wanted and where I wanted to go and how I wanted this business to grow. But if I had a property manager the entire time, it could have saved me the potential stress of getting in trouble at work or potentially losing out on income because of that. So that's just one thing that I wanted to kind of note as a part of this message. Now, I know what a lot of you are probably thinking, and the reason why you haven't gotten a property manager is because you feel like you can't afford one. But here's the perspective shift that you need and that I also needed. Professional property managers can do a few things. Number one, they can optimize your pricing strategy using advanced market data. So they're the ones that are constantly doing these things every single day. They're involved in the industry. They're looking at different listings and different pricing. They're using certain pricing tools. Imagine them using pricing tools depending on the management company that you go with. Usually it's included in whatever you're paying in the percentage that you're giving them. So you're already saving yourself software costs by utilizing a property manager. Now, obviously, software costs don't add up to the entire percentage that you're most likely going to pay them, but that's something that you also get to kind of save on is property software costs. Number two, they can improve your listing quality and SEO. So if there's anything needed to be improved upon with your description, with your instructions, with making details more clear, with optimizing the listing, changing photos around, I mean, just everything under the sun in regards to helping your property thrive, they can do. Now, for one of the biggest things and most important things is handling all guest communications professionally. I remember when I would get messages from guests at all different hours of the day, and they would ask questions that were the most basic and pointless questions questions I think I've ever received in my life. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes when I get a stupid question, I almost like look at it, turn my head and say, why the fuck would somebody ask that? Literally. And I always handle it professionally. I never took anything, personally. But when you have a property management company, you don't have to worry about that. Sometimes my stress levels will go up just reading a message, right? Or even just like getting somebody complain about something. Ultimately, it'll be handled. Ultimately, it'll all end up working out. But in that moment, the stress is up. I feel like I have to respond right away. I don't want this guest to leave a bad review. Well, guess what? That saves you time, it saves you stress, it saves you energy. It's one of the best things probably that's come from me hiring the property management company. It's just not having to deal with guests. And as much as some of us may love our guests, we love our good guests. Maybe we love our bad guests too. But I don't know about you, I would rather be investing my time into other things, like growing my portfolio. Another thing they do is coordinate reliable cleaning and maintenance teams. So we have cleaning teams at all of our properties. We have reliable cleaners and maintenance teams that handle everything. But for whatever reason, if our cleaning team is fully stacked for the day or they had an emergency. I remember one of my units in Dallas, this was one of the first ever units I picked up. I probably went through, and again, I was still managing it myself at that time. I didn't bring in a manager for maybe like a year and a half into it, but I was managing upwards of 11 units before I brought in a management team. And I think this was like my 4th or 5th property. It was my first time with the market in Dallas, and I thought I was going to get a cleaner that was just as good as the one that I had in Vegas, and I went through probably 5 cleaning teams during that time. The first one that I went with was an individual, which was my first mistake, is I only had one person to clean my units. When you only have one person and they're not in-house, even if they are in-house, things happen. I think her car had broke down, and I'm like, fuck, I have somebody checking in today. What am I going to do? Well, now I need to go on Turno and I need to find another cleaner that can get there in a reasonable amount of time. And I have to let the guests know now. And these professional management companies, they have backup cleaners, they have backup maintenance, they have locksmiths, they have carpet cleaning companies. They have tons of different lists of emergency contacts that you won't need to worry about. It's their job to go out, contact them. If there's a big issue within the home, they can go and they can get multiple quotes for you. It's more than just them managing a property. It's them managing stress. It's them managing expectations. It's them managing people. So just keep that in mind. And like I mentioned from the list of the different vendors that they might have locksmiths on their list of potential vendors to call in the case of an emergency. So they manage those emergencies 24/7. It doesn't just stop at 5 o'clock. It doesn't just stop after the guest checks in. If there's ever an emergency with maybe an alarm going off or the heating or the AC stopping or a plumbing issue or a TV issue, I mean, literally anything. They are there 24/7 to address these concerns. It doesn't matter what time of the day it is. If you have a good management company, they're available 24/7. And then one of my favorite things about this, and this is why I say a perspective shift, besides the fact that they can manage all of these other items, they often, if they're a good management company, they can often increase your overall revenue through better management. So let me go ahead and share a quick story with you. When I first started, I was managing all of the units myself. So I was managing probably, I want to say, because I had 8 units in a building in like a small multiplex. I had 5 in an apartment complex. I had another 3 in a smaller apartment complex. And then I think I still had 2 in Vegas. So I had anywhere from 15 to 17 units that I was managing myself, guys. Myself. I think I was using Guesty, but I was managing all these units myself. And I was going to pick up my first ever, because I did all apartments, I was going to pick up my first ever 3 or 4-story condo in Dallas with like a spiral staircase. It looked so cute. And as I was picking it up, I had hired an interior designer. And she was like, you're managing all of these yourself. Like, you need to use this management company. They do a phenomenal job. And me, I'm like, I do want to scale. I want to pick up more. I'm constantly on the phone. I can't even go on an airplane without like buying the Wi-Fi because I need to be able to handle any type of guest issues. And I also lived near a majority of where my units were, so I was always at the properties. That's another thing. If you do pick up properties in your market, you're more than likely going to go and visit the properties, even though you don't need to. You have a team for that. But because it's convenient, you can save on costs, you'll just go and you'll visit it. And that's what I found myself doing. I was making decent money, but I was definitely exhausted. So I was in interested in property management, but I didn't want to give them all of my units right away. I was like, I don't want to just give them my revenue, which I feel like a lot of people think. I'm just going to give these people my revenue just for them to do something that I could easily do myself. Well, that's where you have to make that perspective shift. You have to make that mindset shift. What did I do? Just to kind of test them out, because I'm really big on testing people out. I'm very big on trial periods. I'm also really big on multiple quotes. So I didn't just look into them. I did look into others. And what I did when I first started looking into them, because they did seem to be the best option, and I think they were recommended by more than just one person. So I went and I gave them my lower performing units. So I gave them my lower listings, which they were still good units. They were still making money. They just had more maintenance issues. They had more guest complaints. They had lower reviews in some cases. So I was like, I'm going to give them my lower performing units and I'm going to see how they do. And if they can improve the systems, if they can improve the processes, and just the overall revenue. So not only did they improve the operations, they increased the revenue that I was making and made it so I was working no more than 2 hours a week on those units. Now, they still manage all of my listings to this day, and I don't spend more than 2 hours a month on them. The only time I'm really looking at my calendar, scratch out that I'm really looking at my calendar. The only time I'm really evaluating my units is the end and the beginning of every single month. So usually within like a 2-day period, I'm looking at how much they made, what our expenses were. I'm basically just looking at the bookkeeping. That's what I'm looking at least 1 time to 2 times a month, along with the calendar. Usually I'll look at the calendar for like 30 seconds every single day and just make sure things are getting booked. The team will message me sometimes about bigger things that I need to kind of sign off on. I'm telling you right now, I probably don't invest more than 2 hours a month into all of my listings. When I first brought on a management company, although I was exhausted and I was putting so much time and effort into the communications, I could have kept going. I really didn't have a huge problem with that. That wasn't my thing. The main thing was being able to expand. When I was on the phone with guests, when I was handling issues, when I was having to go to the property, that was preventing me from calling landlords, from picking up more deals, from looking at other opportunities, because I just wanted to save a little bit on property management costs, because I just felt like I could do it myself. Even when you feel like you can do it yourself, and that's fine, you have to also think about, what's my long-term goal? What's my vision? Where do I want to go? How do I want to live? Because even though you know you can do it and you don't really have a problem with it, well, don't you want to grow? Don't you want to quit your job? If you do, well, then I definitely suggest taking that into consideration. Now, if you're somebody that's just like, get me out of here, I need a property manager, that's another thing. You obviously have stress and burnout. Also, let's say you have a full-time job and you're managing your properties all by yourself. If you have delayed responses, that could potentially affect your listing. That could affect how it gets viewed. That could affect reviews, and then potentially lower reviews due to inconsistent service. So overall, it could just make the listing go down. Even if you're a great host, even if you have a great property, even if you can provide great accommodations, if it's not consistent, if you're not available 24/7, if you're not able to handle things in a timely manner, well, guess what? That is going to affect your listing. Lastly, I'll touch on this one last thing. I know I'm giving you guys a lot here. Missing out on professional market insights. One of the best things that I've learned just in business in general is having people around you that know more than you. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And now I almost feel like, because I don't even manage my own properties anymore, I'm like, fuck. Do I even remember how to manage a property? Do I even remember how to do all of these different things around listing a property, pricing? And a lot of people are like, oh no, like that's kind of, if you lose your skills associated with managing a property, well, then you're kind of at the mercy of the property management company. Well, I wouldn't say that's necessarily the case. If your property management company does a good job and they want to get their fee and they want to get as much as possible, they're going to do their absolute best to stay up to date on professional market insights, to be able to encourage different changes, to be able to adjust with the market, to adapt. That's their job. Their job is to stay completely in the know with short-term rentals, depending on the type of business that you want to build. If you want to get to 50 plus units, if you want to get to 100 plus units, yeah, of course, you could definitely have your own management company in the future, 100%. But for now, while you're scaling, I don't see it as a bad thing to be able to have a management company on your side. Again, depends on what your goal is. If you want to be full gung-ho in short-term rentals, great. And you want to understand it, amazing. I think what I did in regards to just understanding every aspect of it is perfect. That was 5+ years ago. Over a year and a half later, I went and I decided to bring on a management company, and I was still really involved in everything. But then slowly I was like, you know what, they're doing a great job. I delegated to them. I'm going to let them continue to do what they're doing. And every single time I pick up a property now, I just pass it on to them. They know what to do. So that's the beautiful thing about it. You get more time to focus on building your business, growing your income, quitting your job, taking care of your family, and they focus on what they're best at, right? So, but you also have to figure out what you enjoy in the business. business. Do you enjoy talking to the guests? No matter what? Perfect. Go for it. If you don't really care about growing a huge portfolio and you just enjoy the experience of being a host, then by all means, continue to do that. Even if you're great at communicating with guests and pricing management, maybe you could also create a management company. So you can pick up multiple units, manage all your own units, and then bring on team members, train your team members, and then go and manage other people's properties. Really is about what you want. Me personally, I don't want to be in the management business. I used to think I did. I don't. So it really is just about you, right? And the only way you're going to figure that out is by picking up properties and experiencing it and understanding it and learning it. So I'm going on a tangent here, but you guys get what I'm saying. Even with management fees typically ranging from 15 to 25%, the ROI even makes sense when you consider the professional photography and listing optimization that they will be providing you. On top of that, they'll have dynamic pricing algorithms. So they might use a software, or they might just be up to date with all of the different trends, and they might also be somewhat savvy in regards to upping the prices at certain times, also in regards to market events, things like that. They'll also have an established cleaning and maintenance network. Like I said, if you need backup cleaners, if you need backup maintenance, if you need other vendors or quotes for additional vendors, they'll be able to get all of those things for you. On top of that, 24/7 guest support, which we talked about how important that is. And then of course, marketing expertise. Now, what I just mentioned in regards to in-house management, if you feel like that's something that you want to build later, I definitely think that that is something to consider. If you're planning on building an empire of 50 plus properties, then yes, creating your own management company could be a value. It might make sense. But just be prepared for things like building systems and processes from scratch. You'll have to hire staff and train them. You'll have to deal with, obviously, turnover, taxes, payroll, things like that. You'll also need to invest in property management software. Like I said, usually when you're with a management company, they handle those things. But if you have a lot of properties, you're going to want to have a PMS system. You're also, like I mentioned, HR, payroll, all of those things, and then creating emergency response protocols. So all of that can take effect if you were to build your own in-house management, and then as you grow, and things of that nature. It's just things to consider. But for most investors, especially those with 1 to 10 plus properties, professional management is a smarter choice. So listen, I get it. Letting go of control is never easy. But if you want to grow your Airbnb business and actually enjoy the active income that it can provide, you shouldn't be doing everything yourself. For the past 3+ years, we've been working with an amazing property management company that has transformed our business. And if you want to know who we use and get a free consultation, just go ahead and click the link in the description below. And then you want to know one of the best parts? They offer an industry low percentage of only 10% to new clients, which I said is like unheard of in short-term rentals. Usually that's a percentage for long-term rentals. So pretty cool. Make sure that you check that out. If this video was helpful, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe for more short-term rental tips and strategies. Drop any questions you have in the comments below. Definitely excited to help anybody out. And hey, if you're ready to stop wearing all the hats in your Airbnb business, make sure you click that link below for a free management consultation. See you on the next video.